Hello, everyone. We are here for Spark Live today. We've got a great show, and as you can see, we have somebody with us. Caroline Shepard is sitting in with us today because she is the person in our company that knows more about Mapspam than anybody else I know. So she will be here. So we're going to take a few minutes, let everybody get on, and we'll be right back. Maybe if everything will work. Yep, I hit the wrong thing. That's what happens when you're live. That is one of the things about being live. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, there was that other thing I was supposed to do. It's like, what knob, what button, what thing do I hit? So what are we talking about today? We are talking about what Mapspam is, what it really is, and how it impacts your business. Because sometimes Mapspam really does impact your business, and other times it doesn't. So we're going to kind of get into that and talk a little bit about that. So just real quickly, Caroline, you want to just introduce yourself and just tell people kind of what you do at Spark Marketer so they have an idea?
Sure. So I'm Caroline. Used to be an account manager a while back, but I became a specialized person running in the background here. And among a few other things, one of the things that I specialize in is Mapspam. So I spend several hours every week just, combing maps on Google Maps, looking for, in the areas that our clients service. And I just look at the maps and I see if there's anything there that shouldn't be. And if I find anything, then I take the time to try to get rid of it. There's lots of different ways you can do that. We'll get into those a little bit later. But yeah, I spend time just identifying and taking down Mapspam.
So just real quick, if you're a client of ours, this is just something that we do for you. I do every once in a while get somebody that will contact me saying, hey, can you go over here and do this? And the answer is no, I'm not going to, because it takes a lot of time. If I don't have a client in the area, I'm not going to go do, we're not going to go do it. So just know if you're dealing with Mapspam and you're not a client, and this is good information for you to have, because this is gonna be a way that you can go in and actually deal with that yourself. So if you are on right now, if you could show us a little love, show Caroline a little love, that would be great. We've got comments open, so if you have any comments or questions as we go through here, please put them in, and we will try to get them answered. So Caroline, tell us then, what in the world is Mapspam?
Sure. So broadly speaking, Mapspam is listings that are created within Google Maps, Google My Business listings created within Google Maps that either should not be there at all, or are, lying about who they are or where they are, or, services they provide, or are otherwise violating Google's guidelines in a spammy way to game the system. There's lots of different types of Mapspam, which I can kind of get into if without getting too detailed, but I've been told that we should keep it kind of short today, which I can go on forever about this. But yeah, so the types of Mapspam that we see most, one of those is going to be keyword stuffing or name stuffing, whereas if you just throw a bunch of your services that you do and perform within the name of your listing. So that is keyword stuffing. There's also duplicates, which you can find basically if you're a service area business, you're only allowed one listing within your service area, metropolitan area. So if you see, companies that have multiple listings, even though they're a service area business, that is spam, it's not allowed. It's duplicate spam. Address spam is probably the one that we see the most. It's where a service area business is using an address that they do not own or have access to in order to show up in maps, where they serve people but to try to get closer and game the system that way. There's a few other types. We've also got spam bombs, which I think we kind of coined that term. Don't know if other people use that term. But that's where you have lots of fake listings that just pop up overnight. Like overnight, you can see like 10, 20, 30. I one time saw over 100 listings.
We are having some connectivity.
Okay.
We're good on our end, Taylor. If you can't hear us,
okay.
things are going okay.
I think it's okay. So y'all just keep going, and y'all tell me. It may just be mine. I've had some intermittent stuff. They're doing construction about a mile down the road here, so that may be what's going on. But I'll just sit over here, and if I need to be involved, let me know.
Okay. I'm also going a mile a minute, so let me slow down a little bit. But yeah, so spam bombs is when you see spam, like fake listings that show up overnight. They're kind of condensed into one area, and they're all fake listings. They don't actually belong to real businesses. And then the last one, which is something that I don't think we've really talked about before, but spam rings. So this one, it's kind of specific, but it's where you have like one company that has multiple listings, kind of like there's one that we're working against right now, but they have the same listing that's like same name and everything, but they have multiple listings all across the country, which, unless you're a franchise, that's not really a thing. So that's kind of something new that we've been working with that we haven't really discussed before here.
So is it like on that last one that you're talking about, because I'm wondering, is it like a company that maybe is trying to send referrals to local businesses in all these different markets across the U.S., and they're trying to get on the map so that they get more phone calls and then they can sell those leads to local businesses? Is that the kind of thing you're seeing?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, okay. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I can name drop if I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Let's not.
Let's not do that. But I will tell you this. If you see that in your area, if you want to know who it is, get in touch with me outside of here. I will tell you who it is. It is in the chimney service industries. And I will also tell you, if you have a phone number, you need to call it, because right now, everybody that's called that phone number has gotten Home Advisor. So this is a really big deal. And the organizations in that industry as well have not been able to stop them. They have their certifications on their websites, and they are not certified. So any information that can have, then we will, we'll help as much as we can. But Lou is asking this question: what is the point of a spam bomb? Why would anybody even do that, Caroline?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it actually ties into what we were just talking about, because spam bombs are kind of the more aggressive version of the spam ring. It's the same thing. They're not real companies. They are, getting those phone calls, and they're selling those leads to other companies. So they're actually created probably by those lead generation services. But yeah, they create fake names, fake listings. They get people to leave fake reviews. It's all fake, and it just pops up overnight. And yeah, they're just doing it to try to get in the way, get on maps, because places like Home Advisor and those lead gens, they're not allowed listings on Google Maps. So in order for them to get onto Google Maps and be a part of the game, that's what they're doing there. So really good question. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because a lot of times in organic, Google gives them the advantage on organic listings, and yet that's not good enough. And so what it tells me is they have become very, very aware of how beneficial having a really good, solid Google My Business listing is to show up on the maps, because we are seeing really good results for those people that show up on the maps well. So that's great. That is great. Hey, Lou, thanks so much for that. Appreciate that. Michael Fazy is asking, can you discuss the best way to report spam? This seems to have changed recently with Google. And Michael, we're going to get into that. So stay tuned, Mike, because we're going to get into that here pretty quickly. But before we do, the first thing I want to talk about, before we talk about how to fight it, let's talk about really how to spot it. You know, and I think that's one of the things. Like, it's easy to spot a spam bomb. Really easy to spot, because you'll get up one day and type in chimney services, and all of a sudden you'll see just listings that you've never seen before.
Companies you don't recognize.
Yeah, they're like, what in the world is that? They're all over the place. Most of them have 0 reviews, or if the reviews they have is fake. And we're going to talk about that next week. We'll discuss that a little bit more too. But I mean, they're really easy to spot if it's a spam bomb.
Correct. Yeah, they are. Usually what we see is, like I said, overnight, you'll see just dozens of listings pop up. And usually what I've seen is they kind of are condensed along, like if you have like a main road going through a city, they are just lined up on that main road, just like right next to each other. And of course, if you like take a look at the actual location, there'd be like in a gas station, in a restaurant, in an ice cream shop, all that stuff. And usually the names will be really obvious. It'll say literally like XYZ, chimney and dryer vent, no spaces, just one string of letters and words. It's very obvious. So spam bombs are probably the easiest ones to spot. Going back to the other types of spam and how to spot those, let's see, what did we start with? Try to go in order here. Keyword stuffing, obviously another really easy one. It'll just be, sometimes it'll be company name, hyphen, and then a string of services and keywords. Sometimes it'll be their name and then their phone number. You can't put your phone number in your name. Please don't do that. So that's how you spot like keyword stuffing. Sometimes you can compare, like if you're not sure, you can compare the name that they have on their listing to their website. So like if you click on their website and the name's a little different, then oh, okay, they're stuffing keywords here. Duplicates, that's kind of another one that's easy to spot. If you do a search and you see multiple listings come up with the same name, then obviously it's duplicates. If they have similar names, but they're not exactly the same, check again the website. Are they using the same website with both listings? That's a good way to tell with that.
Is it a duplicate when it's the same business name, but maybe a different address? Like they're trying to get on the map again in a slightly different service area. Is that considered a duplicate or not? So
it depends. If they have separate service areas, then it is not duplicates. But if the service areas are the same, if they overlap. Then it is duplicates. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification on that.
Yeah. And generally, you're not allowed to have multiple listings within like the same metropolitan area. So it depends like how nitty gritty you want to get. But like, for instance, you wouldn't want to have one like in the main, metropolitan area and then another one in the suburbs. But this is all if you don't actually have staff at those locations. If you have staff at those locations and customers can come visit you at those locations during the hours that you have listed, then it's not duplicates. It's only duplicates if you don't have staff at those locations. That's something really important to point out with that one. Address spam is one that's a little bit trickier to spot. Ones that typically catch my eye is if you see like a chimney sweep or a plumber or something like that, like right in the heart of the city. Generally, that's not really where they go because to have, a location there is pretty expensive. So if you see something like that, or if you see, like, oh, I know that's like a gas station right there, like that's really weird. Like why, or it's like a strip mall, like why are they saying that they're in the strip mall? So if you see something weird like that, go to their Google My Business listing, just click on it. And then if you scroll down to the photo section, there should be an option if you, keep scrolling to see the street view. Check the street view and then use the street view, look around, do a 360. If you don't see any signage that says that company's there, if you don't see any trucks, that are associated with that company, then they don't belong there and they are doing address spam.
We've seen empty fields. We've seen under bridges.
Yep.
It's amazing what we've seen.
Yeah, the empty field was probably the best. UPS stores, people use those a lot. I think that like used to be allowed, but it's not anymore. So if you see someone in a UPS store using like a PO box, that's not allowed either. So I think that was everything, because then the last one was the spam bombs, but we already covered that. We can't hear you, Taylor.
My gosh, that's what happens.
Oh, there we go.
One of the things that that is not allowed is shared office space. I mean, you have to have signage.
That's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
So a lot of shared office space, will let you have signage, but a lot of them won't. I mean, because it's a month-to-month deal, and they, it's an office. So you got to be real careful with all that kind of stuff. So
And the most important part to remember with that is it staffed with your employees during the hours that you state it is? So if co-working space where like, someone needs to make an appointment for you to like meet them there, doesn't work that way. You have to be fully staffed at that location with your employees. So not, like, oh, well, I have them answer the phone for me and then they tell me later. Like, no, it has to be staffed with your employees during the hours that you have listed on your listing there. So.
Yeah, and Christian makes a really good point. For brick and mortar stores, those physical locations, they're not duplicates even if they're close in proximity. So if you can show that you're a brick and mortar store, you don't have a problem.
Brick and mortar meaning open for business, open to the public, for them to come and see wares or meet with someone at the business, right?
Correct. Like Starbucks is a great example. There's a Starbucks sometimes on every corner when you travel. It's crazy. But they're all legitimate locations, so they're fine. Fine.
Thanks for the clarification there.
So now, Michael, we're going to get into your question. First thing is, should you fight it? That's a question.
It is a question. It's a question worth asking, and it's gotten a little bit harder to answer lately. Because, a year ago, it was super easy to fight spam. Whenever these spam bombs would like come up, I could take, maybe 3 or 4 hours and get rid of like over 100 listings within a couple of hours. But now it's becoming a bit harder for that to happen, for it to be that effective. Edits aren't being published as much as they used to be. But we're also not seeing quite as much spam as we used to be. We were talking about this before we started the live. But like spam bombs, we don't see them nearly as much now as we did a year ago. And it could be that Google's algorithm is starting to get smarter and kind of grabbing that stuff and getting rid of it before we see it. But, it's hard to know if something is real if you don't see it, right? So I don't know if that's actually the case, but there's evidence that could be the case. But I think that it is worth the time to at least do, like a Passover and give it like one try. A lot of spam, you usually have to give it a couple tries for it to go through. But, the thing about fighting spam is that it is like the most effective way to jump up in rankings within Google Maps and Google My Business. So if you can get listings that are, spamming the system, that are ranking above you, if you can get rid of them, then you're going to, jump up. So that is like the most effective way to, climb ranking in maps. It's just like a long drawn out process most of the time when you do fight spam. So yes and no.
So I think the question that I would ask is, before I went through and spent the time and effort, because there is time and effort involved. It's either you got to pay somebody to do it or you got to do it. I mean, that's the bottom line. So the first thing I would ask is, how is this affecting my business? Is it really affecting my business? Is this something that when somebody goes on and sees that this is a company that has no reviews, no anything, there's just nothing there. It's a very thin Google My Business listing. Is it worth fighting? I don't know the answer to that, but you got to make that determination. But if it is something that is systemic, especially if it's a company that you know is a company that's kind of in the area, but you know they're lying about where they are, a lot of people get really ticked off about that because it's fine to play the game and play the same game that I have to play. I mean, I have to do the same thing you do. I have to have an established location with all the Google stuff, guidelines, and all that everybody else. So if I'm playing by the rules and you come into my area and now you're not playing by the rules, yeah, I'm probably going to get ticked off at that, and I may be fighting that to get rid of that because you're not playing by the rules. So I think, and every business owner is different, and every business owner has to ask themselves and answer that question for themselves, because I can't tell you whether you should or shouldn't. That's just a determination that you have to do. Now, how do you do it? How do you fight it?
Right. So it's going to be a little different depending on which type of spam that you find. But generally what you want to start with is suggesting an edit. So if you're looking at a listing and you suspect that there's spam, you want to click on the listing, scroll down until you see a button that says suggest an edit. When you click on that button, it's going to give you two options. It's either going to say, make an edit to this business or close or like suspend this business. So if it is just like simple keyword stuffing, then you can actually just hit edit and then just straight up take the keywords out of their name and hit go. It is going to go under review, so it's not going to immediately like publish your edit. But yeah, just submit the edit, give it a couple days, check back, and just keep an eye on it for a couple days to see if any changes are made.
So Michael Crazy has a question. If you flag a spam listing, suggest an edit like you just say, and it doesn't work, can you suggest another edit, or does someone else have to do this?
Okay, that's a good question. So from what I can tell, suggesting multiple edits under one email is not going to help. The only thing that may help is if you suggest one edit, but from multiple emails. So like if I suggested an edit and then Taylor suggested an edit and then Carter suggested an edit, that is potentially going to be more effective than you suggesting multiple edits to the same business under the same email. And it could actually backfire on you if you do it too much. So I would not recommend suggesting multiple edits on the same business with the same email.
So my next question then, if I suggested an edit that doesn't work, is that when I need to contact Google through their form?
Right. So if you suggest an edit and it doesn't work, then you are going to use the redressal form. So that's a link that we'll share with you guys later. But you are going to go use the redressal form. It gives you a couple of fields you need to fill out. You need to fill out the entire thing. I think it even says it on the form. If you don't fill out the whole thing, they're not even going to look at it. So just take your time with it. Be really specific. But you put in your name, and then you have a place for the link. And then they give you a section where you get to describe, like what it is that this listing is doing wrong and why you think that it should be removed. And you just need to be very specific here. And what I like to do is quote specific guidelines that they are violating, because Google isn't really going to do anything if all you say is like, they're hurting my business and I think it's unfair. You have to kind of be impartial and, use quotes, be very specific with them, and then send that off. And I do have one quote that I always include in every redressal that I send. And I will read that to you guys real quick, if that's okay. Let me find it here. So one quote that I include every single time, some form of this, because sometimes you have to kind of make it shorter to fit. But this is what I always say. The listing mentioned above violates Google's guidelines and should be removed from Google Maps. These listings are pushing legitimate listings down out of the search results and are denying work to legitimate businesses that rely on Google for business. These multiple fake listings make it harder for consumers to find legitimate business and are eroding the trust that consumers have in Google. Okay, so the reason why I include that, which I got that from a Mike Blumenthal article, if you guys are interested, but so Google doesn't like it when their authority is threatened. And also you're kind of guilt tripping them to say like, hey, this is actually affecting other businesses and you guys don't want that. So tell them that it's affecting other businesses and tell them that it's eroding, the consumer's trust in Google, because Google wants to be top dog, right? So I always include that in every single redressal that I send. So yeah, send the redressal. Turnaround is about 2 to 3 weeks. I give it about 3 weeks. They won't contact you to let you know if anything's been handled, so you have to keep an eye on it on yourself. And that's kind of where you go from there. If you wait 2 or 3 weeks and the listing is still there, you can send another redressal. If you can see if you can reword what you wrote in a more maybe, if you can rephrase it in a different way, or if there's a separate guideline that they might be, violating, try to include that instead. But I recommend sending 2 redressals. And if after the second one, nothing happens, then there's like one more thing that you can do, which is go to the Google Help Forum. You used to be able to contact Google through like Twitter, and that used to be like an effective way to get results, but not really anymore. The place that I have had the most help is going to their Google My Business support forum. And this forum is monitored by Google product expert volunteers. So they're volunteers, but they can like escalate things within Google. So you just basically copy and paste all of your information into that forum and then give the redressal ID from your past redressals and just say, hey, I sent 2 redressals, nothing is happening. This is why, this listing needs to be removed. Can you guys help me? And I usually get results there if nothing else has worked.
So one of the things, guys, that you'll see is this is a pretty in-depth process.
Yeah.
So if you want to go back on April the 15th, Caroline kind of walked through it in a video on one of the Spark Lives in the GMB. It's the April 15th live, and you can find that on Facebook if you just look for that in the GMB listing. But we're also having one of our writers write a very in-depth blog post, not only about Mapspam, but also review spam. And we're doing it together. So next week, we're going to do review spam, and the blog post should be ready to come out right after that. So what that's going to do is that we're going to give you all the links where you have to go, whether it's Mapspam, review spam, all the stuff that Caroline talked about, everything that that we just kind of regurgitated here. And I know your head's spinning going, but where's the form and where's the this and where do I go to do that? We're going to give you links for all that because I know we had people that after the other live, I've gotten some emails that said, hey, where again do I go here? Where again do I go there? So we want to make sure that you have all that information. And the best way I know to do it is put it on the blog post on sparkmarketer.com/blog. Don't go there this week. We'll remind you again next week because we are not only including, again, the map spam portion, but also the review spam portion, which in my mind, review spam has almost become more of a problem today than map spam. It's kind of flipped a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into that next week. But guys, give Caroline some love. Give her some hearts and thumbs up. She does a great job for us, and she really does a great job for our clients. I mean, that's really who she works for. And she is really, really great at spotting things. And I find out things 2 and 3 weeks after the fact, and it's like, oh, that was already done. Oh, okay. Wow. All right. That's great. So
2 things real quick.
Yep. Go ahead.
Two things. Number one, I cannot believe, Caroline, that we got through all of that material in 30 minutes.
I went so fast. I'm sorry if I spoke too fast,
No,
everyone.
it was clear.
Awesome.
I thought it was great. The second thing is, did anybody else listening have the spam song from Monty Python going through their head the whole time while we were talking about this? I'm just curious.
I didn't think about that. Oh my gosh. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for doing that. Caroline's awesome, and I'm glad that's the information you were looking for. That is fantastic. That's what we love, is when we give you great information and you can go back to your businesses and use it. I mean, that's the whole idea here.
Mm-hmm.
And just remember, Spark Live can now be found in the following places. You can find it on Audible, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. This particular segment will be up this evening, I believe. And next week, like I said, we're going to continue with the fake stuff. We went from Mapspam into the review spam and combating the fake reviews. And we're going to talk about Google, Yelp, and Facebook, some of the fake reviews that we've had. So, guys, thank you very, very much. Again, we love having you guys. See how I do. Thanks, Carter. All right.
Well, there you go. I got you a little earworm going there. Yeah.
Carter should sing it. There we go. Thanks, Carter. You just did it to us all. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you same bat channel, same bat time next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.